So in case you didn't know, the blue marks on the pews are 6 feet apart, like a circumference or whatever of around is 6 feet. So if you want to sit in front of one of those blue marks, you're sure you're that 6 feet away. Otherwise, do as you will. So let's begin this morning by singing one of our longtime favorite songs.
Yeah.
If you can stand up with us, sing. May the long-time sun shine upon you. All love surround you, and the pure light within you guide your way home. May the long-time sun shine upon you. All love surround you, and the pure light within you guide your way home. Guide your way home.
And so it is.
It's my turn. It's my turn. How are y'all doing? I mean, I try to be Jack today. Well, that's good. I'm glad you're all here, and I noticed there's a lot of empty space over in that section. I don't know if anything happened over there, if there was a skunk found or something, but I think those seats are just fine if you want to fill those in as well. And if you haven't figured out the system, if you see a blue dot on a pew, your back's supposed to be up against that blue dot. That is measured to the micron of 6 feet all around that location, so safety first. All right. Well, if you're watching us online, we still love having you watch us online, and we hope that you could actually share this to your page or your stream, whatever format you're using, so we can get this message out there. And even if you're sitting here in this room, you can pull out your phone and you can share it to your page. And hey, there's some familiar faces. Good to see you. And you can share that along, get the message out there. So we'd love to have that happen as well. It's the most inexpensive form of advertising that we have. So if we can utilize that and word of mouth, then we really get this thing moving, and that's a good thing to do. All right, what else do we have going on? Let's try to remember you can use your cell phones during the service. Just make sure you turn down the volume all the way so we don't have that happy noise of hearing Beethoven's Fifth during Syntysche's talk. If we can avoid that, that would be great. Okay, what else is going on? So I actually have a class coming up, and I need my notes to remember the dates on that. The class that was formerly entitled the 90% class, which is the abundance class I teach, is now just called the abundance class. And it's got a better title than that, but you'll find it through the abundance class. You can register for that online, and that's actually coming up. It's going to be starting Thursday at 7 p.m. on July 9th. And that's going to be twice a week. It's going to be a Monday and a Thursday evening, and it's going to be 3 weeks long, so there'll be 7 total classes. It's a pretty powerful transformational experience. If you've ever heard me talk in the offering about how we need to open up the floodgates of abundance in our life and get ourselves out of the way, this class is designed to do exactly that, to deprogram all the stuff we've learned that closes up our prosperity and reprogram us in a way that's going to allow that to abundantly flow with ease and grace into our lives and those around us. So you can find it on the website, and you can register there. It's just $10 to register for that, and I'd love to have you. It's going to actually be offered in person and simultaneously online, so you can take it either way, or if you have to miss an in-class session, you can actually catch it online. So we'll be doing it simultaneously on both, which is a new thing for me, so that should be fun and exciting. All right, I think that's all I have to say. Here comes Mike. We all love Mike, right? Give Mike a round of applause.
It's been a long time since I've been on this stage. When the building shut down, it turns out there's not a lot of stuff to announce. So, got a few quick announcements, finally. Our Spirit Nia dance classes that we used to have are coming back this week. They're going to be on Tuesdays and Fridays at 9 a.m. They're $13 per class. You do need to email or call us to reserve a spot for them beforehand, as we can only have 8 people a class due to current social distancing recommendations. So if you're interested in that, please just give us a call or an email at info@unityofboulder.com. And coming up, Unity of Boulder here is partnering with cheese importers in Longmont to sponsor a fundraiser for a group called HOPE, which stands for Homeless Outreach Providing Encouragement. They really wanted to have HOPE as their acronym. So they really went out of their way to find words to make HOPE, but it's an awesome group. Their main goal is to find people who are either homeless or in financial ruin, to not only help them now, but help them move forward and get out of the situation and grow. It's a wonderful group. They're going to have 5 online concerts, and Unity of Boulder is going to be donating this space. They're going to be July 2nd and the 16th, August 6th and 20th, and September 2nd. We will be sending out emails before each show, so you can have a link to click on to watch all these, and there'll be a spot where you can donate. Their suggested love offering is $20. We definitely want to outreach and help this group out because they're fantastic. And some of the bands are awesome. Some of the bands actually just have new bands that we've had on our stage and are good friends of ours. So you'll be hearing more about this in the upcoming announcements and emails coming out to you. Thank you.
So we are going to sing Open the Eyes of My Heart, which is another favorite of ours here. So I invite you to stand up and sing. This is kind of the time where inviting spirit into the room and sharing with others our spirit, if you will. So let's go ahead. Open my eyes, oh divine one. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to feel you. I want to feel you. You gotta sing extra loud so I can hear you. Open my eyes, oh divine one. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to feel you. I want to feel you, holding me up, shining through my heart, overflowing, source of all life, as we sing holy, holy, holy. Open my eyes, oh divine one. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to feel you. I want to feel you. Open my eyes, oh divine one. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to feel you. I want to feel you. To feel you holding me up, shining through my heart, overflowing, source of all life, as we sing holy, holy, holy. Open my eyes, oh divine one. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to feel you. I want to feel you. Open my eyes, oh divine one. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to feel you. I want to feel you. sing holy, holy, holy. You are holy, holy, holy. I want to feel you. Let's sing more of that. Holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. We sing holy, holy, holy. You are holy, holy, holy. I want to feel you. Holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. I want to feel you. Really lift it up. Holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. I want to feel you. Holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. Holy, holy, holy. I want to feel you. Beautiful.
Thank you. I love that song. You guys did such a nice job with it. Thank you. So let's just close our eyes and recognize this holy moment and leave the world of our lives outside these doors and bless ourselves with this about 40 more minutes of time with our connection with Spirit, God, Source, whatever word makes you feel hugged, seen, and loved. We recognize that every moment is holy. And when we come together in community, we are an extension of your love as a community to brighten up this world. To brighten up this world for more healing, more light to enter the hearts and minds of everyone, so that we now start to see the change that we want to see in this world. And we take this time out to remember our true connection with you, Spirit. We know that we are the channels of your light. We are your hands. We are the feet underneath your good and your beauty. And we give thanks for this time together, Spirit. Amen. It's so nice to see you all out there. I have to say, this is my first talk I've done in the sanctuary, and I'm so happy to have all of you on live stream joining us as well. It's just wonderful to feel the community coming back, and it's been lonely without you guys, so it's so good. So my talk title today is A Heart That Is Ready for Anything. And you know, I know that all of our lives have been in major transition for the last few months, and some of us are coping better than others, and all of us have different circumstances that are playing out due to this pandemic. But I wanted to talk about love and how contagious love is. And it's shown in deeds, not only in words. It's Father's Day today, so it's a day to reach out and tell our fathers how much they mean to us, or if they've passed on, to remember that we're always one with Spirit, and that we can send those messages out into the ethers, and our fathers will hear us. My father isn't here today, so, and I really doubt that he'll be watching my service today, considering he's taking a Sunday off. But one of the things that my dad always referred to as love, as far as his marriage with my mom, and his love for us, and his love for this community, was that the most important love is agape. And it's the Greek word for love. When the word agape is used in the Bible, it refers to a pure, willful, sacrificial love that intentionally desires another's highest good. It's not about just receiving the love. You know that when we actually give love, we feel a lot more love than when we just receive it from others. When I counsel people when they're getting ready to get married, I say to them, You know, the question you have to always ask yourself is, where else can I love more? Whereas we tend to think that we have to barter and switch and maneuver to get more love from our partner. And the truth is, the more love that we give, the more that we receive. And that's with everything. So with the ups and downs of this pandemic, one of the hardest parts has been trying to keep my kids busy with things to do as the world shut down. And they lost school a quarter early, so we pretty much already had a summer with the kids home with this pandemic. Their sports stopped, their dance stopped, all of their extracurricular things that they did to keep them busy and keep their minds sharp all just fell away. And we know in the Bible it says, idle hands are the devil's workshop. Of course, we don't believe in the devil, but we do know that children can be extremely fun when they're bored and can get into trouble, especially like preteen and teenagers, so to keep them busy. And so Ty and my daughter started to resume their dance classes through Zoom. And normally at the end of the year, they have a big dance production with over like 300 or 400 people that come and see these performances after they've taken these lessons all year long. It's a really high caliber, amazing dance studio that they're part of. And they were learning the choreography through Zoom. They hadn't learned any of it live. And Katya was just picking it up like this. But for Ty, that medium was not a great fit for him, but I kept pushing him to do it because it was one of the only things he was doing besides playing in video games and just trying to get him to do anything. He was just kind of falling into a funk, and I kept pushing him like, Ty, just focus. And when he'd be doing the classes, he'd be yelling at his sister because she's getting in his way, and it was just chaotic, and I was losing the battle with the whole thing. And then this last week, what they were doing is bringing all the classes to Rocky Grass Amphitheater in Lyons, and they're going to make a movie of each class so that we all, when we can come back together, we'll watch a movie there of all the kids performing. And right before it was time for Ty to go do that, he came to me and said, this isn't working. I don't have this choreography, and he's having a meltdown. I don't want to, he doesn't want to feel like he didn't look good to the other students, and he's having a major breakdown. And I'm like, don't want him to give up right at the very end. I was raised through the family that you don't ever just quit at the very end when it's time for the big unfoldments, that big moment for the big performance. But I'm like, he looked so broken. At one point, he's just standing in my living room and he's crying. And I'm like, and it's 14, and it's like, I don't want to break the child, but I also don't want him to give up in life. And I'm sitting and I'm grappling with myself. Is this what I would do to get him to do this, or is this what my parents would do? Like, I'm having that moment of how they wouldn't have ever let me bail out because I was in fear or something like that. And so I sat with Spirit and I asked Spirit, what should I do with him right now? And the first thought I had was, I could go to Ty and I could say to him, Ty, I'm not going to be on the planet forever. So if you just perform this, don't you want me to be proud of you? And I thought, that's not God. That would be my ego. So that's not God. So I'll wait and I'll listen a little longer. And I finally went to Ty and I said, they're going to have one live rehearsal. And if you don't get the choreography when you're finally with the teacher, then I'll let you leave. But when you go, I want you to remember that in every cell of your body, this choreography is in you. It's just that your intellect is getting in the way. And ask God to dance through you when you show up, and get out of your way and let Spirit take over now. Because I know you have this in you. And he goes, okay, but then if I don't get the dance, I don't have to do the performance. And I said, yes, that's fine. So I take him to the rehearsal later that day. I drop him off. He looks pretty kind of broken walking in there. And I'm like, please, God, please let it be in his body. Please let him have this moment where he can overcome that sense of fear and the camaraderie with the other dancers and the whole bit. And when he walked out of that dance studio, his body was standing tall. And he was filled with light. And he came to the car, and I said, how did it go? And he's like, I knew every step. I told God, I asked God just to dance through me. He's like, and I knew every bit of it, and it's amazing choreography. And I just felt like I was like watching myself dance. Like I was almost not in my body. I was observing something happening through me. And I was like, oh, thank you, God, thank you, God, thank you, God. So it's taking that time sometimes to have to listen to God's wisdom of how we guide ourselves to get through things that make us fearful. This is a time where the trials are great, and people are losing jobs, and so many things are falling away that we were used to, and we could go along with the fear of all of it and just kind of become a lap in a puddle of loss. Or we can always remember that God is always listening. I firmly believe that God is with us as close as we are to ourselves, and even closer. When I pray, I wait for God to reply. Not always knowing how God will reply, but trusting that God will. So to see that moment when the aha came through my child is so powerful. Because we can't demonstrate God for your kids. You can give them examples and you can tell them how God has moved in and through my own life or our own lives with different, experiences and things like that. But they really can't ever know what God is until it touches their heart. So it even deepened my relationship with Spirit to watch that light get turned on in my boy, to be proven that there's no court date, there's no divorce, there's no difficult thing that will happen in your life that you can't overcome when God is with you. When you get out of your own way and out of your own intellect and remember that God moves in and through you, just get out of your way and let God speak, be, dance through you. Meister Eckhart says it this way: God does not ask anything else of you except that you let yourself go and let God be God in you. God does not ask anything else of you except that you let yourself go and let God be God in you. And in John 6:27 it says, "Do not labor for the food which perishes, but for the food which endures to eternal life, which the Son of Man will give to you, for on him has God the Father set his seal." And who is the Son of Man? We all are the son and daughters of God. This is the beginning of Jesus' great teaching that is known as the Discourse on the Bread of Life and is recorded in the 6th chapter of John. The people wanted to know how they might do the works of God, and Jesus replied, "This is the work of God, that you believe in him whom he has sent," in John 6:29. We are to believe in the indwelling Christ whom God has given us. The people then requested a sign from him, that they might believe. They said their ancestors had eaten the bread from heaven, the manna that fell when Moses prayed. Could not Jesus then give them a similar sign? Jesus replied, "Truly, truly, I say to you, it was not Moses who gave you that bread from heaven. My Father gives you the true bread from heaven." And Jesus said, "I am the bread of life. He who comes to me shall not hunger, and he who believes in me shall never thirst. But I said to you that you have seen me and yet do not believe. All that the Father gives me will come to you. All that the Father has given to me will come to you, for I have not come down from heaven to do my own will, but the will of him who sent me." But the will of him who sent me. And there is no discord in life that we cannot overcome when we recognize the Christ example that we are. In Unity, our co-founder Charles Fillmore describes that Christ as the perfect word or idea of God, the embodiment of all divine ideas, which unfolds in true man as potential perfection. In other words, our Christ is our perfect God self, just waiting to happen. Consciousness is a state of alert awareness. So bring to mind right now the difficulties that might have shown up during this phase. We are in a phase, and we're all in it together. This time, we're not just alone with our own stuff. We all have something that's being uprooted in our life and making us very uncomfortable. And many of us have many places where we're being put into that turbulent, uncomfortable place. But if everything is in divine order, then there is an upheaval that's happening. All the things that are underneath the rug that has been hiding for a very long time, the rug has been turned over, and we are here to hold the space, to observe what's going on, and to grow into that Christ example. To not let the turbulence take us over, but to be the peace that will set this world and this planet free. So what is the will for us? Given from the one who sent us. There is no pandemic, no circumstance outside of ourselves that we can't navigate because he who sent us directs us. I do not have to worry what to say or what to do because he who sent us will direct us. That's from the Course in Miracles. And the same thing is being said in the Bible. It's just our own intellect that thinks we have to control the outcomes and circumstances of our life. And the truth is we all feel out of control right now. And now is the time to have the deepest meditation and time to build our faith in this greater something, this greater love that we call Source, Spirit. In the book True Refuge, it says this. This gate to refuge was crucial to the Buddha's own awakening. When Siddhartha Gautama took his seat at the base of the Bodhi tree, the tree of awakening, he resolved to stay there until he found full freedom. He began his meditation by collecting his attention, quieting his mind, and coming back to a full and balanced presence. But then, as the story is told, the demon Mara appeared, accompanied by a massive army and with many deadly weapons and magical forces at his disposal. Mara is a tempter. His name means delusion in Pali. And we can also see him as Gautama's shadow self. Mara's intent was to keep Gautama trapped in trance. Throughout the night, Mara hurled rocks and arrows, boiling mud and blistering sands to provoke Gautama to fight or flee. Yet he met these attacks with a compassionate presence, and the missiles were all transformed into celestial flowers. Then Mara sent his daughters, Desire, Pining, and Lust, surrounded by voluptuous attendants to seduce Gautama. Yet Gautama's mind, when Mara issued his final challenge, doubt. What proof, Mara asked, did Gautama have of his compassion? How could he be sure his heart was awakened? Mara was targeting the core reactivity that hooks and sustains the sense of small self, the perception of our own unworthiness. Gautama did not try to use a meditative technique to prove himself. Rather, he touched the earth and asked it to bear witness to his compassion, to the truth of what he was. In response, the earth responded with a shattering roar. I bear you witness. Terrified Mara, as his forces dispersed in all directions, in that instant of acknowledging his belonging to the earth, Gautama became the Buddha, the awakened one, and was liberated. By claiming this living wholeness, he dissolved the final vestiges of the trance of separation. So this story is not just about Buddha. This is about us. These are the monsters that are underneath our bed. These are the things that still keep us living in a total unfoldment and wholeness. When I read this story, it reminds me of my childhood with my father, who grew up in Hoboken, New Jersey, in dire poverty. And they lived in crawl spaces at times. They heated canned tomatoes on Radiators. And sometimes they didn't even have a radiator. There wasn't even heat. And my dad saw people murdered in real time, in real life. He grew up in a very unsafe childhood. And that reflection was within him when we were born into this life with him. And yet he had already been on the spiritual path for probably, I don't know, maybe 7, 8 years by the time I came into the picture. He started with the Edgar Casey work with my mom. But when you have children, you have to keep growing. We're still growing. We're still finding ourselves. He's in his late 20s at this time. And we would go on camping trips. And I remember a few times where my dad would be having a nightmare. And his whole body would be convulsing and like screaming. And nobody could wake him up. The trauma that lived in his being was so vast. And to observe it from a child's point of view, do you remember that, Shad? You don't remember it? He was probably too little. And my mom would be shaking him, and she could not get him up. And she would finally get him up, and to see this vulnerable, broken being. The people were showing up to church and listening to his sermons on Sundays, and he was still dealing with the terror that life can do to us when it breaks us down. Right? He was an amazing man, and he was a great father, but we were watching the whole process of divine consciousness taking place in him. He wasn't perfect the second we entered as his children, but we were his teacher too. And we helped him learn deeper and deeper paths of peace and understanding. He ran this church without any assistant ministers, and at the time the church was extremely packed. He taught every single class. He did 3 services on Sunday, and then he had 3 kids at home. But as we got older, he became quieter and quieter, stiller and stiller. And now when I look upon my dad's eyes, I wonder where that man went. That frightened soul that believed in poverty consciousness. We all had thermostats in our bedrooms, and we were terrified if we left the house with that thermostat. We lived in the mountains, and I'd drive down and it was like, I left the thermostat on. He went hauling back. It was not worth the wrath that we were going to hear, that we wasted money on heat. But that was part of my journey, is to see that his pain of his childhood is what put him on his spiritual path. His darkness wanted to find the light. And so often with us kids, he'd say, "You have no idea how blessed you are. You have no idea what you have. I could have never dreamt of the life for myself that I have given you guys." We could never relate with that because it's all we knew. Like the Buddha, our own healing and awakening unfolds in any moment in which we take refuge in our aliveness, connecting with our flesh and blood, with our breath, with the air itself, with the elements that compose us, and with the earth that is our home. Whenever we bring our presence to the living world of sensation, we too are touching the ground. And just like Gautama, before he enlightened to the Buddha, the echoes of his shadow was loud and seduced by the world, and was controlled by the circumstances of the world. If there has been a time where all of our own haunts are coming to the surface from lost jobs, a pandemic that has taken so much from so many, and the world is in true upheaval, we are taught by the story that these are the tests for us to connect with our own indwelling spirit for silence and wisdom and compassionate presence. To not be hard on ourselves that we're going through a difficult time, but to find more and more of the beautiful deepening of the love that lives within us and carries us, and therefore moves out to others and heals others. Your inner purpose is to awaken. It is as simple as that. You share that purpose with every other person on the planet because it is the purpose of humanity. Your inner purpose is an essential part of the purpose of the whole, the universe, and its emerging intelligence. Your outer purpose can change over time. It varies greatly from person to person. Finding and living in alignment with the inner purpose is the foundation for fulfilling your outer purpose. It is the basis for true success. So my childhood with my dad, we're a lot closer in my adult years than we were as little kids. My mom said that I just came out and I just had this kind of inner lack of trust for him, and I did. It was definitely a karmic thing. And so he didn't trust me and I didn't trust him. There was just this disconnect. And I feel like I was probably the most highly disciplined child out of the three of us. And I'm sure that affected me because it made me feel like I wasn't the most loved out of the three kids. And Shad, I don't think, ever got disciplined because he never did anything bad, so, you know. I'm serious, I don't think he ever did, really. But I, on the other hand, came out curious at all costs, and I would even consider the discipline I was going to get, and I was still no, I'll still cross the road and go down to Ben Franklin's and get some candy, even though they said not to or whatever. So growing up in this way, I ended up, we had homeschooling, and then I went to Waldorf school in middle school. And then I showed up to high school at Boulder High School. And homeschooling to Waldorf to going to a public high school is not a good fit, all right? I wasn't used to being in classrooms with 50 kids in it. I was in classrooms that had 6 to 12 kids in it. And I fell behind very quickly. And I just started ditching classes because I felt like I wasn't smart. And I would just hang out with friends and things like that because I couldn't memorize anything, and I just didn't understand the whole, the way public school happened. And one day my dad showed up at school, and he'd gotten a printout of my unexcused absences. I remember this like it was yesterday. And he was not happy. I was across the street at this little restaurant on the patio, and he came over with this, when the printer just keeps printing pages, there was pages this long of unexcused absences. He's so angry, the car is you could feel his vibe. And he took me to Alfalfa's, the grocery store, to sit and check in with me. And he stood there going, I just don't know what we ever did to deserve you being so defiant, this defiance in you. It's just, you're just infuriating. You just won't do anything anybody ever says. It was just this whole, and he's sitting there, and I'm feeling like I can't articulate how lost I've felt in school. Because I can't explain to him that I wasn't doing it to get you. I was falling in the seams. Nobody was noticing that I couldn't function here. So I was really falling apart, but they weren't seeing it that way. They were seeing it as this disobedience that lived in me, but I just didn't know how to survive because I'm only 15 or 16 years old. And he's sitting there, and he's just, thinking that somehow he's done something wrong because I'm such a badly behaved kid or whatever. And there's this little cactus sitting in the middle of the table, and it's one of those little fuzzy, little round fuzzy looking things, and his energy is just so intense that I just need some comfort. So I go and I pet the cactus, and I get all this cactus in my hand. He goes, why did you just do that? It's just as if I was doing another thing just to chap him, It was but all I was needing was something soft to pet, because this is so intense, and I'm so in trouble. And it's such a funny memory to me now, because I just couldn't do right in his eyes. And that's where I started to realize that our perceptions of other people, you can't know what somebody's going through. Like the Native Americans say, you can never know what somebody's going through unless you walk a mile in their moccasins, which is impossible to walk a mile in somebody's moccasins. But if I had a learning disorder or I had something like that, which I'm pretty sure I did, and I grew out of it or whatever, we always have to take the time to sit in silence and quiet and really research from a spiritual place what is going on for someone else, to put ourselves in those moccasins, to grow greater compassion, greater respect, greater grace, greater empathy. And I think being in that lens with my dad kind of turned on this thing that's like, I'm going to prove to him how great I am. You know, and so I started working for him when I was 21. And it wasn't easy at first, for the first few years, but then slowly he started to recognize who I was. He started to see how talented and thorough I was. He saw how detail-oriented I was, and that I had a memory that lasted forever, and I didn't forget a thing about a person in this church. He'd say somebody's name, like, yeah, they're married with 3 kids, there's 2 daughters and a son. Like, I just had, because I loved people, and he recognized, whoa, she's got these qualities that, you know, he loves people, but he didn't take in all of their information, whatever. So, the ride with Jack as my father has been one of the most important ones, but the relationship wasn't easy. I feel like you learn a lot from difficult relationships. And then when you overcome those relationships and you find love, the love that I have for my father and the respect that I have for my father, and I know that he has for me, is because we decided to take a karmic journey together this lifetime. I didn't choose to pick the easy dad. I chose to pick the dad that was going to make me the best version of me. In waking up in 5D, actually, this is not it, right here. Yes, that is it. The first place we lose the battle is in our own thinking. If you think it's permanent, then it's permanent. If you think you've reached your limits, then you have. If you think you'll never get well, then you won't. You have to change your thinking. You need to see everything that's holding you back, every obstacle, every limitation, as only temporary. When the Buddha was dying, he gave a final message to his beloved attendant, Ananda, and to generations to come. He said, be a lamp unto yourself. Be a refuge to yourself. Take yourself to no external refuge. What did he mean by that? Our ultimate refuge is none other than our own being. There is a light of awareness that shines through each of us and guides us home. We are never separated from this luminous awareness any more than waves are separated from the ocean. Even when we feel most ashamed or lonely, reactive or confused, we are never actually apart from the awakened state of the heart, mind. This is a powerful and beautiful teaching. All of us ordinary humans have this essential wakefulness. This open, loving awareness is our deepest nature. Everybody has it. We don't need to get somewhere or change ourselves. Our true refuge is what we are. Trusting this opens us to the blessings of freedom. And that's why my title today is A Heart That Is Ready for Anything. That last slide said it's your thinking that's making it so. So if you believe that you're at the end, then you're at the end. And if you believe that you're at the beginning of something wonderful, then you're at the beginning of something wonderful. We can take this time as a time of absolute creative expression. To take the time that's a little bit quieter and connect with a part of us that is so fully alive. And watch how the other areas become so fully alive. My dad's confidence in me is what changed everything for me. And it took a long time for me to build that confidence in him, but once I got that confidence, I knew I could do anything. Because that love is the wind that's behind the life that I live right now. He sees things in my children. He gets my kids, which is really wonderful. He's a really great grandfather in the way that it's not so much hands-on, it's the observing of their spirits. And he will share back with me things that he sees. But I wanted to end with a video that I had Ty make, because when he was little and he used to go to my dad's house, my dad would say, this boy is very, very intuitive. He does things ahead of time when I'm thinking things, and he literally brings me stuff I'm thinking of. He's very, very connected, and he's extremely connected to the animals. And he'd call me and he'd say, you won't believe it, but a hummingbird just landed on Ty's hand, and it just sat there. And it's that kind of stuff that happens to Ty. So I asked Ty, do you think that you could get some hummingbirds to land on you for Father's Day? And let's see what we got. Kind of cheated, but it's still very cute. The best part of it was like, have you ever had to hold your hand like that for a really long time? My mom used to teach music classes for this school when we were kids. And I mean, back in the day, you could actually discipline your students. You can't now. But her rule, if they were messing around in the music class, was just to hold a folding chair out front of them for the rest of the class. And she's like, they'd always be so silly and so funny and so till like by the end, they're practically crying because their arms are so tired from holding the chair. But he stood there for so long, getting their trust. The hummingbirds. I mean, I just finally captured when they finally came to him. But to recognize that we are spirit first, and if we put our minds to it, we can all get hummingbirds to land on us. Because it's the vibration that we hold. I'll bet you all will leave here and somehow something hummingbird will come into your world, because again, our thinking attracts everything. And hummingbirds represent happiness and joy. So I want to take this chance. I'm going to invite Erna out here. We're going to have a microphone down here for people to come up and share about their fathers and try to keep it like 2 minutes. We always do this on Father's Day and Mother's Day. And I'd sent an email out if anybody wanted to write something. We got one email over, and so she's going to read something that somebody wrote for their father.
This is from Karen Westman. She says, I lost my father, Pete Bernhardt, to lung cancer on April 4th, 1968, the same day Martin Luther King was assassinated. We lived in Los Angeles, where I was born and grew up. He was only 44. I was 16 and a junior in high school. My dad was my best friend. My mother and I were not close, as she was a 1950s stay-at-home mom, but was not a typical hugging, loving, close relationship mom. I was always with my dad, hanging out with his German family. He was an iron worker on commercial buildings in LA, the guy you see walking up high on an I-beam. He also wrote out project blueprints and had the neatest printing style, a style I copied because my cursive handwriting was awful. He and his brothers were first-generation Americans. My grandparents immigrated as children at the turn of the 20th century. They came through Ellis Island after traveling by ship in steerage from the old country. My dad and his 3 brothers served in Pacific theaters in World War II and all returned physically unharmed. Dad grew up hanging out at Santa Monica Beach. He was a scout leader and loved camping in the high Sierras. He was the life of our German family, everyone's favorite Uncle Pete. And after he passed, the closeness of our family fell apart. He was the glue that held us together. I miss him and think about him every day. His spirit is in me, and I see him in my children, in their eyes, their faces, their personalities, and the way they are living their adult lives.
And share about your fathers, even if they're not with us anymore, because you know that they're right near us always. If you're going to take your mask off, because it is hard to hear through the masks, we'll be able to turn it up pretty good.
Should I put it down or leave it? I know. What can I say? Hi, no one would be more surprised than my father that I would stand here to honor him. He was an abusive alcoholic, the most unhappy person I've known in this life, and maybe other lives, but I don't think so. And when you said about Jack and you being on a karmic journey, after he had passed and I was able to work with forgiveness, so when he died, I just saw him as this sad and sick old man. But I rejoiced for him to leave this dimension because he was so unhappy. So I had a psychic reading, and she said to me, I want you to picture yourself on a stage, and you're talking to the audience, and it's your dad, and to thank him for the lessons he taught you. She said, much of who you are today comes from the contentious relationship that we shared. So his name is was in this life, Robert William Carlisle Edmonds. And I want to thank him. And I rejoice for him to be where he is. And I have felt his spirit more since he's been gone than when he was here. And I think he's helping my kids. It's just interesting. And Marlene said to me, he's here, he's so grateful for forgiveness. He wants you to know he's nothing like he was in this life. He was very abusive. And I just honor you, Robert, and thank you for the lessons and the journey that we shared together, which I'm sure was karmic too. Happy Father's Day, all you fathers.
Okay, so I don't know how I got so lucky, but Father's Day is a big day of celebration for me. I've got so many dads. I don't know how it happened, and until I was in my mid-30s, I had both my grandparents and my grandfathers as well, and they were great, and I miss them, so happy Father's Day to them. But so both my mom and my dad are my best friends in this world. So there's my dad. I just want to say hello and happy Father's Day and thank you to them, so I'm just going to tell you who they are. So there's my dad, David, yeah, I don't want to take up too much time, but so we've just always been had that relationship where time and distance cannot even begin to diminish that connection that we have. So I'm missing him greatly today, as I'm missing all my dads. So my stepdad, Gary, who raised me through my teen years and has always just been such a source of stability and just steadfast presence and been so helpful to this day, and I'm so grateful that we're so close. And then Tibor, who's the permanent stepdad figure of the last maybe 20 years. Tibor is just awesome, just a funny Hungarian guy, and all three of my dads I share a really strong musical connection with, so that's been really great. And then it just so happens that through marriage now I've got my stepdad or my father-in-law, I guess, on that side, who's also named David, and he's such a strong father figure for his kids and grandkids, and through the VFW, all these young men in his world, and just an amazing guy who I haven't spent too much time with. Last but not least, Gio in heaven. So this is the man that my son is named after, my husband's father. Just somebody we will always talk about and celebrate, even though I never got to meet him. So anyway, thank you to all my dads, and to the 3 in heaven, and just happy Father's Day to all of you. I'm very blessed.
My father died in 1983, and it's only been in the last few years that I have begun to really realize what an amazing person he had been. He used to tell me his story. He grew up on a farm in Tennessee. He said one day he was in the field looking at the back end of a mule and said, "This is not what I want." And he walked off that field and went to college, got a 2-year degree, and became a school teacher. In a period of bad timing, he joined the Army in November of 1941. I always say bad timing, but he stayed in the service for the rest of his life. And in later years, I realized what an amazing career he had had. As a child, I grew up in France, in Japan, in Madagascar, because my father was an outstanding administrative officer, and the Air Force sent him places to do jobs. And like I said, it's only been recently that I really begun to appreciate the amazing things that he did. Before that, he was just my dad. You know, that's that guy, tall guy, you know. And now I won't say that I miss him more, but I respect him more today than I ever did, and I still love him.
My father is still here. He lives in California, and a memory came to me that I wanted to share, which was when I was 20, I got this dream job, and I had to move out of state. And I was there for a month, and I was really enjoying it. It was so full. And then I got a call from my father saying, I'm happy to be in your town tomorrow, Saturday. I'm like, I mean, obviously he planned it. But then he showed up. I grew up in California, and this is down in Arizona. And he showed up, and the rental car, they didn't have the right rental car, so he showed up in this really fancy sports car. Anyway, I spent the day with him, and you know, I didn't know how much I missed connection with family and knowing someone that really loves you and has your back. I mean, I was having such a good time, but I missed that energy of just unconditional love and closeness. And so he must have known that I needed that. And so that was just the most amazing gift. I didn't ask for it. He just literally showed up, flew down and came out and met me. And I don't think I could have made it through that gig and that job I had if he hadn't come down and done that. So his name is Walter. Thank you, Walter.
I did do a few things wrong growing up. The issue is that my parents were so worn out punishing Del and Syntysche, they just said, "Shad, don't kill yourself or anyone else, and we'll be perfectly fine." So I actually got away with a lot more than them. But they also talk about I was spoiled because by the time I was cognitive and old enough to remember and process things, we were already middle class, the ministry was already a success, and things were already happening. I kind of missed the really big struggling years that my parents had through poverty and all that in ministerial school. So my memories are a little more flowery than the experiences they had to have. But my dad was a comedian, as you all know, and so everything was about laughing and having fun. And I just remember it was just, everyone was a target. No one was safe. The waitress, everyone was a target for comedy. So I remember we went to Idaho Springs as a family, and we were walking up by that old mine, and there was a bike sitting there, and there was nobody on it. It looked like maybe there's a young kid playing around there. He just left his bike. So anyway, we keep walking. We go further down. We see another young kid coming along on his bike, and you can put it together easy like that's his friend coming to meet his other friend who's over there. My dad stops the kid, and he says, "Do you know the other boy who has a bike over there?" And he goes, "Yeah, that's my friend." He's like, "What a great bike that is." And the kid's like, "Okay." He's like, "I thought that bike was so amazing. I stuffed a $20 bill under the bike seat." Kid goes, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, you should go tell your friend." And then we just left. He never stuck a $20 bill under that bike seat. He just wanted to see that kid ride like a bat out of hell to get it before his friends saw it. So that's the kind of guy he was, just playing with every particular situation any way he could, just to have fun and have a laugh and mess with consciousness. So happy Father's Day, Dad. Do we feel complete? Do we feel, does anyone feel a burning desire to come speak about their father? We're ready for our offering? All right, I'm not going to be taking a... I don't want to put this in. We won't be passing the baskets. Oh. Hold on, Josh. It's behind my head. As a sound engineer, I know sound works better in front than behind. We are going to bless our offerings, though, so whatever offering you have, whether it's physical or digital or spiritual, wherever you are in time and space, watching us in live stream or watching us here in the sanctuary, it's an important process to bless this offering. It is a part of the process when the money we receive goes into the account room that they bless it as well. So you want to change your consciousness around money, because a lot of us have a lack consciousness or fear consciousness around money. So when you're handling it, you want to shift that consciousness. So today you're going to be able to drop your offerings into the baskets outside the door out there, or you can hit the dip jar on your way out, or you can do the text to give right now if you like, or set up a recurring donation or just an online donation through those resources. So take your offering into your hand, no matter what it is, and we're going to bless it together with this offering statement. So I invite you to say it with me now. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive because I give. We're going to do that again, because I heard zero honesty from this room. That was the most lackluster, pathetic blessing I've ever heard. I'm serious about this. If you really care about the flow of abundance in your life, you have to actually move that energy through you and going, it moves nothing. I want to hear your mask tear open, because there's so much power coming behind it.
Gotta work hard.
Bless this. Bless your life. Bless this experience. Get engaged. This congregation can be so downtrodden. Put some energy behind yourself. You ready? Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive because I give.
Yeah, that was much.
There are churches where it sounds like that every single time they do it, because they understand the power behind their words. Engage with the process. Don't be just a listener and receiver. Give back when you're here with your energy. All right, we did it.
All right.
Okay. We found this Father's Day song, and it's a pretty solemn song. And I'm sure all the fathers out there could probably relate to it. Count it off, Louis. Help! I need somebody. Help! Not just anybody. Help! You know I need someone. Help! When I was younger, so much younger than today, I never needed anybody's help in any way. But now those days are gone, I'm not so self-assured. Now I find I've changed my mind, I've opened up the door. Help me if you can, I'm feeling feeling down. And I do appreciate your being around. Help me get my feet back on the ground. Won't you please, please help me? And now my life has changed in so many ways. My independence seems to vanish in the haze. But every now and then I feel so insecure. I know that I just need you like I've never done before. Help me if you can, I'm feeling down. And I do appreciate your being around. Help me get my feet back on the ground. Won't you please, please help me? When I was younger, so much younger than today, I never needed anybody's help in any way. But now those days are gone, I'm not so self-assured. Enough time, I've changed my mind, I've opened up the door. Help me if you can, I'm feeling down. And I do appreciate your being around. Help me get my feet back on the ground. Won't you please, please help me? Help me, help me.
Larry Morrison over there. Yeah.
All right, let's close. We can all stand and sing.
Let's release. Oh, wait, let's let there be peace first.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as creator, family all are we. Let me walk with my family in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. Yes, I'm only
Fellowship will take place on the front steps out front, and I'll be out there in just a minute. And we'll be out there to visit.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming, guys.